One race, one shocking win, and a post-race comment from a teammate that turned a career moment into a controversy. Corey Heim won at Naval Base Coronado in just his 13th Cup Series start. But the real story is what Bubba Wallace said afterward, and why Heim's response to it tells you everything about where this rivalry is heading. And if you are a NASCAR fan who lives and breathes every lap, every pit stop, and every storyline this sport throws at us, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below telling us what you think about what went down in San Diego, and smash that like button so more NASCAR fans find this channel. Now let us get into it. It started on a Sunday afternoon at one of the most extraordinary venues NASCAR has ever raced at. Naval Base Coronado, located just across the bay from San Diego, California, became the site of NASCAR's first ever race on an active United States military installation. This was not just another street course on the calendar. This was a purpose-built, 3.4-mile, 16-turn circuit carved through the streets and airfields of one of the most iconic military bases in the country. 50,000 fans packed the venue on race day alone. Across the entire weekend, 125,000 people showed up to witness history. The energy was unlike anything the sport had seen in years, and the race that unfolded inside that base matched every bit of the electricity in the air. But before the green flag dropped, there was already a moment that, looking back now, felt like a sign of what was coming. During pre-race driver introductions, a group of United States Navy service members walked on stage alongside Corey Heim. And in a moment that felt completely unscripted, those service members started tapping their wrists, mimicking Heim's trademark victory celebration before the race had even started. Nobody in the crowd thought much of it at the time. By the end of the afternoon, it looked like those sailors knew something the rest of us did not. Going into the race, Corey Heim was not the name most people had circled as a likely winner. He is a part-time driver running a limited schedule with 2-3XI Racing in 2026, having entered the season with only 5 Cup Series races from 2025 already behind him. He is the reigning NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion, having dominated that series in 2025 in a way few drivers ever have, but the Cup Series is a different world entirely. On top of his limited Cup schedule this year, Heim has also been handling a significant amount of Toyota testing and simulator work, roles that speak to how highly the organization views him, but roles that also pull time and energy away from his own racing. The expectation for San Diego was simple: learn, gain experience, and try to run competitively. Winning was not part of the script. Shane Van Gisbergen started from the pole and was considered the race's prohibitive favorite. Connor Zilisch, his Trackhouse Racing teammate and one of the most respected road course talents in the garage, was right there with him. Tyler Reddick, the 2026 Cup Series points leader, was also among the top contenders. Corey Heim was an afterthought to most analysts. What unfolded over 75 laps turned all of that completely upside down. Heim started 13th and immediately fell back to 20th during the opening laps. The first 2 sets of tires his team put on the car were the worst of what they had available. Scuffs from qualifying that were never going to perform well early in a run. Crew Chief Booty Barker kept telling him through the radio to stay patient, that those tire sets were always going to be difficult, and that the car would come to life once they got to their better rubber. Heim trusted that, stayed composed, and kept his head in the race even when the car was not responding the way he needed it to. After Stage 2 ended, he took a deep breath, reset mentally, and made a decision to go on the attack. Before Heim could make his move, though, the race was completely reshaped by a violent crash on lap 31. On a restart, Austin Hill and Connor Zilisch were running side by side at the front of the field. Hill carried too much speed into turn 1, locked up his brakes, and drove himself and Zilisch straight into the outside concrete wall. Zilisch hit the barriers with enormous force and bounced directly into the path of Shane Van Gisbergen, who had just backed out of a 3-wide situation a split second earlier. Van Gisbergen had nowhere to go. He drove through the 2 crashing cars in front of him and suffered terminal damage to the front of his Chevrolet. Van Gisbergen finished 38th, earning just 1 point for an entire weekend of work after claiming the pole position the day before. Zilisch, who had led 8 laps and looked like a genuine threat to win, finished 37th. Hill was also done for the day. When asked about it afterward, Hill did not deflect. "That one's on me," he said. Van Gisbergen was considerably less calm. "I'm filthy," he said. Just like that, 3 of the race's biggest threats were gone before the halfway point. With the front-runners eliminated, Tyler Reddick moved to the front and began building what looked like a winning margin. He led 9 laps and was controlling the race when the final round of green flag pit stops cycled through. Reddick stayed sharp, managed his tires, and looked like the driver who was going to convert a strong points day into another victory. But rear tire wear became a problem. Reddick could not sustain the pace he needed in the closing laps, and Corey Heim, now on his best set of tires, started closing the gap rapidly. On lap 73, Reddick slipped in turn 2. It was not a massive mistake, but at that level of competition, a small error is all it takes. Heim immediately pounced on the opening. The 2 teammates ran side by side through turns 3 and 4, with neither driver giving an inch. Reddick attempted a crossover move into turn 5 in a final effort to retake the position, scraped the outside wall in the process, and made contact with Heim's car. In a moment that revealed a lot about Reddick's character. He backed out. He gave the spot back rather than take his teammate out of the lead in the closing laps of a race. "I ran him straight in the wall," Reddick said after the race. "That wasn't right. I wasn't going to pass him for the win that way, especially a teammate." Shortly after, Reddick suffered a flat left front tire and fell all the way back to 25th place. His points lead, which had been comfortable heading into San Diego, shrunk to just 8 points over team co-owner Denny Hamlin. Corey Heim led only the final 3 laps. He crossed the finish line 10.365 seconds ahead of Bubba Wallace to claim his first career NASCAR Cup Series victory. It was the first 1-2 finish in 2-3 XI racing history. It was also Toyota's 4th consecutive Cup Series win, the first time the manufacturer had accomplished that feat since 2017, and only the 5th time overall in their 20-year history in NASCAR's top series. The number 67 Toyota had never visited Victory Lane in the 78-year history of the Cup Series before that afternoon, and Heim did it in just his 13th career start. "I'm speechless," Heim said after completing an extended celebratory burnout. "I couldn't believe it. We strapped another set of tires on, and we were just fine. Hit the wall a couple of times and maybe knocked some good into the car. I have no idea. After stage 2, I just took a deep breath. I had high expectations coming into this race, even playing field for me. You don't see that every day for a young driver like myself. Just kind of took a deep breath, reset, and went after it." To fully understand what this moment meant to Heim, you have to go back exactly 1 year. In 2025, Heim's first Cup Series road course start came at the Chicago Street Race. His team failed to qualify. He was knocked out of the event before it even began. On his 22nd birthday, he called it the worst birthday of all time. That failure stayed with him. He talked about it openly in the days leading up to San Diego, and it clearly drove him throughout the race weekend. "That's all full circle for me," Heim said, "going from one street course just crushing my life to probably the best day of my life here a year later." Just funny how that works sometimes. The people around Heim were not entirely surprised, even if the timing was ahead of schedule. Denny Hamlin, who co-owns 3XI Racing alongside NBA legend Michael Jordan, ended his own 3-race winning streak with a 14th place finish. But he walked into the winning team's post-race press conference wearing an ear-to-ear grin. Really surprised. I mean, truthfully, really surprised, Hamlin said. Now, if you would have asked me in the middle of the race, I wouldn't have been that surprised. I got to race around him enough to know he had plenty of speed. Tyler Gibbs, president of Toyota Racing Development, pointed to the deliberate patience of Heim's development path, from ARCA to a full Truck Series season to a part-time Cup schedule, as the reason this moment was always coming. You look at the equipment that he's in. I don't want to say that he should, but again, he's going to have these opportunities, and he's made the most of it today, Gibbs said. Heim has already been announced as a full-time driver for 23XI Racing in 2027, where he will pilot the number 35 Toyota. Now to Bubba Wallace, and this is where the story gets layered. Wallace had one of the most emotionally complicated days in recent memory at San Diego. He started 12th and worked his way up to second place within the first 10 laps of the race. Then, on lap 19, his right front wheel detached from the car and rolled down the track, triggering a caution. The cause was traced to a failure by his pit crew to properly secure the wheel nut during a pit stop. Wallace was handed a 2-lap penalty and had to sit stationary in his pit stall while the race continued around him. He was as far back as 2 laps down, with the bulk of the race still ahead of him. What Wallace did from that point forward was genuinely remarkable. He earned 2 free passes under caution to get back onto the lead lap. He drove steadily and intelligently through the field. He worked his way back into contention and ultimately crossed the finish line in second place, the best road course result of his Cup Series career across 40 prior starts on road and street circuits. I know how much I've struggled in the past and continue to work, Wallace said. But despite that remarkable recovery, Wallace could not fully enjoy the result. It's what if, he said. Tired of living in that. Wallace acknowledged Heim's win and praised him genuinely. My body language and facial expressions will not show it, but I am really excited for Corey and Booty getting him back to victory lane, Wallace said. Being a winner in the Cup Series is something that, when we get there, we all want to achieve. And to be able to do that for him in his 13th start, it's pretty special. But underneath that praise was the unmistakable sting of a driver who felt the race was taken from him before it even got close, not by Heim, but by his own pit crew. And the comments Wallace made when asked about Heim's future, about managing expectations, about how hard the Cup Series is, about rookies getting spit out, left enough room for interpretation that Heim heard something in them, something that lit a fire. And then came the suspensions. On June 24th, 2026, NASCAR made it official. Rear tire changer Adam Hartman and jackman Nathan Ricketts from the number 23 team were suspended for the next 2 Cup Series races, Sonoma Raceway and Chicagoland Speedway. The loose wheel on lap 19 was ruled a violation of sections 8, 8.10.4a and d of the NASCAR rulebook. Both crew members will not be permitted to return until the weekend of July 12th at Echo Park Speedway outside Atlanta. Wallace, who already had to fight through a 2-lap deficit to earn that second-place finish, will now have to navigate the next 2 weeks of racing without 2 of his most critical pit crew members. Pulling back to the broader picture, San Diego reshuffled the entire 2026 Cup Series landscape. Shane Van Gisbergen, who needed a massive 2 weeks at the final road course races of the regular season to secure his spot in the NASCAR playoffs, left Coronado with 1 point and a finish of 38th. He is now sitting 17th in the standings, outside the chase bubble entirely. Sonoma Raceway is the final road course on the schedule before the playoffs. For Van Gisbergen, it is now a must-win situation. Tyler Reddick, despite entering San Diego as the points leader with a comfortable cushion, saw that lead collapse to just 8 points over Denny Hamlin. The 23XI Racing organization as a whole had all 4 of its cars inside the top 6, with just a handful of laps remaining. A display of depth that signals this team is operating at a genuinely elite level in 2026. But the individual results told a messier story, and the pressure heading into Sonoma has never been higher. Corey Heim is 23 years old. He has made 13 Cup Series starts. He is a winner. The Navy sailors who tapped their wrists on stage before the race had it right all along. The clock was already running on something bigger. Every storyline that came out of San Diego, the Wallace comments, the crew suspensions, Reddick's shrinking points lead, Van Gisbergen's playoff desperation, follows the series directly into Sonoma. Nothing is resolved. Everything is escalating. And if you made it to the end of this video, you already know this channel covers NASCAR the way it deserves to be covered. No fluff, no filler, just the real story. If you are not subscribed yet, do it right now. Leave a comment below telling us whether you think Bubba Wallace's comments were out of line or simply the words of a frustrated competitor. And hit that like button so this video reaches every NASCAR fan who needs to see it.